Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to our session. Today's session is the second of 3 installments of tutorial series presented by the Remote Sensing Committee and Ameriflux Management Project supported by DOE. And let me introduce our instructors for today. Xian Wang from Indiana University Bloomington, Huiqi Wang from UC Berkeley, and Carlos Wang from UC Berkeley. Xian and Huiqi will cover data tools for the first half of the session, and Carlos will cover Google Earth Engine for the second half. With that, Xian and Huiqi, if you're ready, please take it away.
Okay. I need to share my screen, right?
Yes, you may.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Sorry, I do have. I do have this one. They have two. Okay, hopefully they will find. I'm going to screen one, screen two, screen two. You guys see my screen? The presentation?
Not the presentation mode.
Okay. How about
Yeah,
now?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you for coming. So today we are going to cover some data tools like how to gather data, maybe do a little bit data analyzing for today's talk, today's material. And we have this a little bit introduction about remote sensing, just in case for you guys recall back about some basis of remote sensing. Sorry. And then we're going to introduce a lot of data tools. So this one is for something you already know your research questions, and then you know the data you want to download. So we provide a lot of data tools. So you can find your data and also find the softwares that you can deal with this data. And we specifically using two examples, both me and Huiqi is going to introduce, like how you downloading data specifically. And after that, I think Carlos is going to introduce something about Google Earth Engine. So Google Earth Engine, usually, if you are really into about programming, JavaScript or the Python, you can you even don't need to download the data, and you can process the data on Google Earth Engine. But sometimes it's just they don't put the data really as soon as possible when the new data came out. So you might like combine these two methods together to thinking about how to get the data that you want. Next. So this is some just the basic information about remote sensing and how the basics understanding about the differences of the photosynthetic materials or non-photosynthetic materials. So we get the differences so we can understand the photosynthetic materials. So here showing like two plants, different plants. And then there's a sandstone. I think this is orange color. Oh, no, I think that this is a dry leaf. And this black is sandstone. And this is the final one is the soil. So they usually mix on the ground. And then you see these curves of the spectrum. It's really different among the different bands. So based on these differences, you could get the signals just from the photosynthetic materials, or even get the signals from the species that you are interested. But on top of that, because all the sensors is not really just close on the canopy, and all the like remotely sensed data, usually they have sensors outside of atmosphere. And so you just imagine this is an atmosphere, and you have something, make noise between the sensors and the ground data. So in that case, it's a little bit more complicated when you're thinking about processing all the satellite data, a little bit more complicated than the ground remote sensing data. Just some basic information, so you know why we have to deal with all this data and stuff like that. And then these are actually the agencies provide data publicly, so you can download the data from NASA, NOVA, or even some other agencies like European or Japanese. So there's also other commercial agencies. you can get the data with the high resolution data or whatever. So it really depends on what kind of research questions you want to answer. There's other data like some networking data, usually they happen on the ground, including neon phenochem or phenological networking, though they are all kind of remotely sensed data, but they usually either validate the satellite level data or either combine them together to answer the questions or just to make our findings more robust in some ways. There's, of course, American flags is not really remotely sensed data, but we always use them as a, supplemental data to validate our findings and also maybe combine them together to confirm something really important. There's also personal data that they might fly their own UAV, or they build their own sensors. So you can contact them, also get the data on the ground. But like I said before, so the ground data is a little bit more easy to understand because of the atmosphere impact is not that large. I mean, they still have influence, but not as large as the satellite data. So we are going to providing some more information about the satellite data-based remote sensed data. So we go to more about Earth science data tools. Just the first resources that I want to show you is this paper called Current and Near Advances in Earth Observations of Ecological Applications. I mean, from my background, actually, I'm studying a lot of ecological applications. So they might have something else about other applications. But this paper is really nice described about different satellites and their applications. So if you at the initial stage of, you want to find the satellites that you want, you can come to this paper and then to know what you want. So just for example, really quickly about, something about Landsat. So, okay, I think it gets longer. So they actually have a great descriptions about Landsat. So from 4 to 9. So you will find the differences for the different Landsat platforms. But they also have a good descriptions about Landsat 10. I mean, I'm not sure if it's really good, but they have some information about Landsat 10, which seems like launched in 2030. In that case, you might get information about Landsat 10 and you could write a proposal or just have understanding about future applications of the Landsat data. So this is a really good paper that you could read when you're trying to understand the combinations about different satellites and also their applications. But another good thing about this paper is they provide a list of the tools related to the different satellite data. So here is the table 7. You could come to this table. So this table actually lists software specific for different satellite data. If you are interested in MODIS, you can go to this link and they provide tools to processing the data. If you're interested in other data set, they provide a toolbox too. Those toolboxes usually developed by expertise, so you don't need to search online and find the wrong tools later, but then you can just go directly to here to find the tools that you want and specific target to your data. And then I think, I'm sorry, where's my slides? Oh, here. I think the second resources we want to introduce you is Earthdata website. So this is a kind of has a lot of information, but we just go to 2 topics really quickly. One is you can search your data on this topic. So usually I will go to the land surface. I'm not interested about other topic. I mean, interested, but not really study them. So here is the related data archives. So you can go to either the archives that install the data, they put the data there. So they have a simple descriptions about what data they include. And they also have the data tools here. So you can download the data or even processing the data somewhere. And I think they have another really data tool tables is really kind of useful. So here is a another table for data tours for this website. So you can come to here to search or order, or even using different, like, how you're going to deal with this data. So using these different tools here showing, I usually actually download some data and then using the ArcGIS or QGIS to do the test for specific area. And after that, it's just like large programming to process all the data. But it really depends on the person, the way that you are doing stuff. But it's here is what I mean here is just, this is a tools, you can come here and to find the methods that you want or the tools you want and processing your data. So today we only, because of time, we're only going to introduce a little bit about AppEEARS and also the Earth Explorer, so that you can download the data that you want most of the time. Okay, I think best slides. Okay, this is I already introduced, and then this one too. So I think Huiqi is going to introduce about AppEEARS. Huiqi?
Yeah, thanks, Xian. Can I go to the next slide?
Yes.
Yeah, I will cover how to use AppEEARS in a short introduction. So after you enter into the AppEEARS platform and click the geospatial data set, you will get a list of all the data set available in the platform. And at the same time, they will provide a product name, version, and different layers. You can see this is all the available data set on this platform. Next, please. And we have two ways to extract data. The first one is use the point samples. You can, if you have a CSV has the latitude and longitude, you can upload the CSV file directly, or you can enter your longitude, the latitude here, or you can just click on the map and they will enter your longitude and latitude automatically for you. So using the three ways, you can enter your point. Okay, sorry, there is, yeah, enter your, can go last one. Last. No, no. We are still in the point sample.
Point?
Yeah.
This one?
Yeah. And then you can enter the start date and end date and choose the product. Here I use this map as example, and they provide different layers. If you click this sign, you can have the details for the layers, like the description, data type, and units and field value. Next, please. And we can also use a polygon to extract data for certain areas. If you have the shape file or just JSON file, you can upload them directly, or you can also define your own areas using this map. Here we choose the GPPS, or this GPPS example. You can choose the specific layer you're interested in. For the area extraction, you can define the file format you want, like the GeoTIFF or the NetCDF, and also can choose the projections that works for you. Next, please. And after you submit your request, you will receive email like this. And after the request finished, you can also receive email to inform you. Next, please. To inform your request has been finished. And you can use these two links to explore and download the data. Next, please. And in the platform, if you click the explore here, you can check all the status of all your requests. Next, please. And here in the explore link, you can choose the layer of your product, and you can have a very basic visualization of how your data looks like. This is the area sample for the United States, and you can see there's a similarity of the GDP data set. Next, please. And this is the data downloading link. If you click that link, for the area sample, you will go to multiple T files. And you will also get some supporting files, like the JSON files or some TXT files describing your request details. And for the point sample, you will get a CSV file with longitude, latitude inside, and the data value inside. Next. Yeah, I will pass to Xian for Earthdata search.
Okay. I am going to show you how to download the data just on the Earthdata search. But before that, I have to let you know you have to register this website. After you register this website, you can download the data. Otherwise, you can't. So just assuming you already know your research questions and you already know what satellite data you want to download. And then you can search here, and there's a lot of filters, requirements, whatever kind of thing you can explore by yourself. But today we're just going to simple explore some data, like, for example, equal stress, because I know it's not on the Google's engine. If you need to download this data, you have to find another way to download the data. So we can look for just the land surface temperature and emissivity daily scale, right? So this is a 7 meter at 70 meters, or not 7 meters, sorry. Let's search that. And then I'm just going to using like two simplified filters here. So one is the data showing here, right? You can choose the data that you want, and then we are going to just choose a really short period of time just because of the loading capacity not that fast. And then we can just choose 1 week of data here. You can apply. So now they're only giving the data in this time period. And you can also choose the area they are interested. So we can go to whatever region. We can just go to Indiana because I'm here. Just to choose maybe Bloomington. To this area. So it's okay. So now they actually have all the data, equal stress data, level 2 data is already selected just based on your locations and also based on your time period. So this data selected is selected all the themes. So they're not going to actually the data is like everything related to this polygon is going to be chosen. So it's not going to be cut the exactly region for you, but you just download other things related to this polygon, right? So you can also, when you point this thing is actually related to here, they're actually linked together. So you can remove the things that you don't want. Specifically, you can also we just select all the data, just download all the data, only 10 imageries here. So you go to this imageries downloading. They have a 2 method. This is direct download. If we have more time, we can go to this customized download from Huiqi, but we now focus on direct download. So you just go to a download data. So you don't need to wait for any, I guess you don't need to wait for any emails and stuff like that. So this is the direct link for download the data that you select based on your filters. You can direct to click them. I'm going to click in the new table because I don't want to lose this page. So now I think I'm already download this data somewhere here. It's already downloading the data. But there's another way that you can save the test file. So these have, well, I think this one is, these files has a lot of links that just the table and then in this test file. So you can copy these links to the, I think some software, maybe FTP software, and then you can use these links to download the data just at one time. So you don't need to click each links, because sometimes you actually need to have a lot of data to be downloaded. So you don't want to, sometimes you don't want to click link each by each. And then there's another method called download script. So in this case, you actually have two platforms could be used. I'm not sure about Mac system, but if you have a Linux system or the Windows system, you can use the command line to download the data really easily at the same time. So you can install some software. I don't know how to pronounce this, but this software, you can go to the link directly. I'm sorry. Here. So this is a Windows system. You can just install this software really quickly through here. It's really easy to install. It's not really complicated. So I think you guys can do it. And then after that, you can save this code specifically, just to save. I think it's already downloaded the code. So my code actually in the download folder shown here. The file is .sh. So I want to change the names because later I need to type the name, but I don't want to type all the numbers here. It's difficult to type. Oh, I have the same files before. I'm going to delete this. So just remember, you have to download this .sh file, which is the code you need to use, the files you need to use to download all your data later. So I already installed this software in my computer, so I can show you quickly how to download the data using this software. So here is the command line, which is just you just click this software in your computer if you already installed. I want to make this big. It's pretty big, right? So you go there, and then first thing you just go to your folder that you put this download file. So I download the file in my downloads folder. So I just the CD, which is just a really used general command line, and just CD to this folder, which you have a space here, just be exactly the same words here. And it's not really complicated because the other two lines is already here. So you only remember this one. Go to your folder. I already go to my folder and just go exactly to make this file to be executable, which is the download file that I put in my downloads folder, right? So I have here and then make it executable. So exactly the same line as the website described. So you don't need to memorize that. And now that the file is already executed, it could be executed. And then the last line, only 3 lines. So this one is the last line. You could download the data at the one time, but you have to enter your username and also your password for the website. That's why you have to register this website. So only 3 lines, but also, of course, you have to register the website, but also you have to download this software, and then just the 3 lines. Now I think it starts to download the data. It just give a lot of information here, but it just download everything one time. So when they download the data, you can do whatever you want and you use it like with your own computer. But still remember just the 3 lines. It's not really complicated. Just go to your folder and make the file executable and then execute this file. I think we can say, I think we already have the EcoStress data downloaded here. I think this one I was click the link, but this one is, so this is the second one that I download. So if you so you can do both, either click the link or just do one time and download everything. Okay, I think I'm done here. So Huiqi continues. How much time we left?
Now we have used 26 minutes. Do I continue?
So I showed all this.
Okay. Then I can continue on the customized downloading. So the Earthdata search also provide customized downloading for certain data products. If you click the customizable in the filter, you can find all this data. Or if you see a button like this, that means this data can be customized downloading. You can do some spatial or variables setting or transformation or reformatting. Next, please. And for example, we choose the snow cover data as example here. You can enter your email address and choose the output format and input some latitude and longitude to subset the spatial area. And also you can choose the projections works for you, and then choose the certain bands you are interested in. Next, please. And after you submit the request, you will also get an email to inform your request is received and when it is finished. And then you can use these links to download the data. Yeah, that's it.
Next.
Thank you. I think this is the last slide, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is sorry. If you guys have any questions, contact us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Should I stop sharing my screen? Yes.
Yes, I think Carlos can, share your screen, Carlos.
Great, yeah. All right, so I think, thank you, Huiqi and Xian. I just want to add like a clarification note for whenever you download eco-stress data, if you're using, land surface temperature or emissivity or even PTJPL, dyslexia, you also need to download the geolocation file alongside of your corresponding file to georeference that. But welcome to part 2. And then so in this part, we're going to cover Google Earth Engine. I think for definition wise, the ChatGPT offers a pretty good, solid kind of a definition. It's like a cloud computing. You can do a lot of fancy things with your satellite imagery. You can, analyze your NDVI, land surface temperature. You can have a zone of statistics. But I think it's kind of like, only surface on the kind of surface level. And so for this presentation, we'll kind of have an overview of, Earth Engine, including different bells and whistles on Earth Engine that might be helping you to move your research forward. And then specifically, we'll go over, some particular applications that may be of your interest. And so if you missed the first tutorial, I think as Josh has mentioned in the first tutorial, remote sensing enables many research topics. Here's a glimpse of some of the many things we can do on Google Earth Engine, including land surface temperature, NDVI, burn severity, and snow covers. And so there are many analysis-ready products, especially from MODIS, while some other variables or products still need to be derived, including all the examples showed here. And so in the following, we'll go over a couple of the fundamentals with a particular focus on deriving NDVI and land surface temperature LST. But first, let's look at the Earth Engine interface. And so assuming that you guys have registered through Earth Engine, those are the pretty basic steps. And so opening the Earth Engine code editor, you have a web page full of gadgets. And so we can start with the left panel here. And then so in the script manager, you can find all your saved and shared codes, while the asset manager pretty much contains all your uploaded files. These can be your local assets from your computer. And then lastly, the API documents is more of an internal help if you're stuck on a certain function, let's say. And oftentimes, if I'm stuck, I tend to just Google around on Stack Overflow, where they usually have most of the answers. And then moving to the center console, where we have the code editor. It's pretty simple. You can use the get link function to share your code with other folks. And the rest is very standard. And always, remember to save your script before a coffee break or a breakthrough. And then on the last panel, we have inspector, console, and tasks. And then so in the inspector tool allows you to select pixels across different layers you generated on Earth Engine and outputs the information at that specific pixel. And for example, if you're looking at the Jedi pixels here, it'll give me the relative height at 98%. So, select it as 98%. And then the console is more like a result panel where you can see your charts or different outputs, or you can even run your fun animations, in the on the Earth Engine. And the last one is tasks. Kind of shows you your pending or completed tasks, whether it's imported or exported from your assets. And so once everything is done, it will show up as a blue progress bar. But for your exported assets, usually you need to run it, and it will automatically get saved on your Google Drive. And then moving on, in the map area, we have a really important tool called the geometry tools. It's pretty simple. I mean, you can draw different points, lines, polygon, or rectangles. Why is it this is important? Well, it's because sometimes we want to focus on a specific study area and generate that zonal statistics as opposed to looking at the entire satellite scene. And so in this video, kind of shows you how to create a polygon. You can click on your feature of interest and create a polygon. And then let's say, you want to edit that feature. You can hover over to the little hand on the left corner. You can drag it to your place of liking. And then also, if you don't like the shape, you can click on the vertices to kind of edit the shape accordingly. And of course, if you don't like the polygon, you can always delete it and restart. And once you have created your different features, it will show up in your import files. And then, of course, you can rename all of them. And then moving on, we're going to look at data. So for data, you can search it on the Earth Engine data catalog. You can browse through different data sets, and it has a lot of different data sets that maybe one of them will pique your interest, ranging from land surface temperature or, popular Landsat Sentinel MODIS arrays, as well as geophysical data. But most of the time, we will know what we want in terms of data set. For example, if that's the case, you can view different data sets and then look for reanalysis and to see different products. And then let's say, we want to get the land surface temperature from Landsat 9. And then once you scroll down, there seem to be none. And so this relates back to the beginning where I mentioned that some products still needs to be derived, but we'll look into this in the first application. And before that, we need to search for that specific data set. And so for the sake of the popularity, we'll focus predominantly on Landsat 9 and Sentinel-2 for the rest of this tutorial. So you can do this in the Earth Engine code editor. On the top, you can search Landsat or Sentinel-2. And so upon searching, you kind of have a good chunk of data to choose from, which might be kind of a little bit overwhelming or daunting. But don't worry, here's something like a guideline to specify what we need to use. So for Landsat 9, we want to use collection 2 data, collection 2 tier 1 data that have been atmospherically corrected. So what this means is that we're essentially getting the surface reflectance data since we're more interested in different surface properties. And for Sentinel-2, we want to get the same surface reflectance data. And the naming is pretty simple. It's just Sentinel-2 _ surface reflectance. And I just want to also point out the harmonized here is not the harmonized, Sentinel-2 with Landsat. It's kind of like an internal Earth Engine processing that they kind of done to drop out the bad values and then reprocess some of the old Sentinel scenes. And so once you kind of get your surface reflectance data, you can do a true color composite for Landsat and Sentinel. And so keep in mind, once you have that, the orientation would be different. It's because Landsat scenes are operated on a path row through the descending orbit, while the Sentinel scenes are mosaic together in tiles. And I think at this point, we kind of cover a lot of background information, ranging from different data sets. Specifically, we're going to use Landsat 9 surface reflectance data and Sentinel-2 surface reflectance data. We also learned that, we're going to use geometry tools and then, as well as different kind of bells and whistles. And so now we're going to look at how do we actually apply all of this information into applications. And so for the first one, we'll look at is to generate land surface temperature for Landsat 9. And on the right side, I've also included like a code link. You can scan it with your smartphone or iPad or something, as well as like a short, how do you call it? The hyperlink that you can put on your browser. But I encourage you to follow along here and play with the code later. And so once you have determined your data set, let's say, this is the data we're going to use. It's an image collection. On the website, you can browse through different information about the data set. You can read about, what's Landsat 9 about. And then, you can go to your bands to look at information like spatial resolution, as well as all the multispectral bands. And lastly, we also have our thermal bands arrays, including all the information from brightness, temperature to emissivity. But for here, we're going to specifically focus on the band 10. And of course, there's also other properties that you can look for, including where to derive the emissivity and other information. But more importantly, if you scroll down at each of the data description page, there's usually a basic processing kind of like pipeline provided by Earth Engine. And for example, in this code block, we need to apply something called a scaling factor. So what this does is that, we're applying kind of like a calibration to all our optical and thermal bands. And you can find these scale factors and offsets in the band's information. And so most likely, aside from the scaling factor, we also need to apply some other functions, including cloud masking and clipping. So the names are pretty intuitive. Cloud masking here, I'm just removing cloudy pixels. Here specifically just to remove the cloud shadow and cloud. And in terms of clipping, it's kind of just, extract that kind of shape files out of that raster file. And then you can clip out or make the area of interest through the geometry tools we covered earlier. And then, we'll apply all these functions to the data sets. And so just to note that in Earth Engine, we use the .map to apply our predefined functions to an image collection. So walking through this line by line, the first thing we're going to do is to create a variable name called Landsat 9, and then through the land surface reflectance data from Landsat 9. And so, remember, this is an image collection. And then we'll define our time and area of interest. And so here specifically, there are two things to keep in mind. The first is that when we filter date, we have a start and end date. And so note that the start date here is inclusive and the end date here is exclusive. And additionally, you may also notice that I passed a path and role kind of identifier. So this is particularly really useful if you have a site like Boulder Alfalfa USBI1 that sits on two overlapping Landsat scenes. And then so you can pass like a filter like this to identify whichever scene that has higher coverage. And afterwards, we're going to apply the functions we defined. One is masking out the clouds, and the other one is the scale factors. And at this point, we'll kind of sort of have an analysis ready product. And then, of course, you can print out the entire collection of Landsat 9 or a specific band to look at specific information that might be interesting to you. And then we'll use the provided example to kind of generate our true color composite. So to do that, the first thing we need to do is to kind of declare like a visualization parameter. And here, the parameter includes a color palette as well as a threshold. And so for the color palette here is pretty simple. It's the combination of red band, green band, and blue band. And then once we've done that, the center object here means that we're setting the map view at our area of interest with a zoom level of 13. And then lastly, we're just adding that specific layer into the Earth Engine interface. And so here we're adding the entire collection of Landsat 9 with all the optical and thermal bands with the specified visualization parameters to output the red, green, blue true color composite. And we're going to name it as RGB. And once you've done that, we have a true color composite, looking over two of the Mariflux sites, Boulder Alfalfa and Boulder Corn. And then in terms of LST, it's pretty simple, still define your color palette. So here, the only difference is that we're creating a color ramp from blue to red with a minimum of 20 Celsius and then a maximum of 60 Celsius. And then again, we'll add the data of interest, which is our thermal band. So we're selecting that specific band. And additionally, we'll also use the clipping function to only get the LST within that polygon. And so the resulted LST will look something like this. So one of the things, like you will notice is the high spatial kind of a heterogeneity we can see, throughout a 30-meter resolution LST from Landsat 9. But one of the other things I have to confess is that this is a very colorful map. There's nothing wrong with being colorful. But what we also need to realize is that this may not be really colorblind friendly. And so I think for inclusion's sake, maps like this, especially for presentation, should be converted accordingly. And there are many available tools online that allows you to import your image and then convert it accordingly. And aside from this, another issue you may notice is the blockiness of some of the LST pixels. And so this is caused by the AppEEARS global emissivity data set, and then particularly seen in agricultural lands because of the high spatial temporal heterogeneity based on different agricultural management practices. And so, of course, there are ways to correct this, using Landsat NDVI to derive your fractional cover and rederive your bare soil and vegetated emissivity, and then you can apply it to your brightness temperature to get the correct LST. But I think this will be out of scope of this tutorial, but the Landsat science team is aware of this. So hopefully they can address this and then update the Landsat collection on Earth Engine. And just as a recap, for the first part, what we did is to, we start with defining different functions and apply them to the Landsat 9 surface reflectance data. So simultaneously, we also constrain the data set by specifying the time and area of interest. And lastly, we applied the corresponding visualization parameters to get the true color composite and the lens surface temperature. And so the code I provided also include a function to make legends, but for the sake of time, I thought folks can probably read through that since it's a pretty basic kind of a command line. And then for the second, For the second part, application, we're gonna go over charting NDVI using Sentinel-2 data. Same deal as before, the code link is here, but still I encourage you to follow along, even though I'm going pretty fast, I think. So here, browsing through the website, instead of using their processing kind of pipeline, I'm using another cloud mapping function. And so here, specifically, I'm filtering out cloud pixels or pixels that have over 5% of cloud or snow. And additionally, I'm also removing cloud and cloud shadow based on the scene classification list as SCL. And then for the second function is just to compute NDVI based on the near infrared and red bands. And again, you can look for the corresponding band number in your band's information. And so looking at the processing code chunk again, I think at this point, you can pretty much hopefully find the similarity compared to what we did with Landsat 9. Again, we retrieve the image collection, constrain it with time and area of interest, and apply our functions, including cloud masking and NDVI. And so for the true color composite here, we applied something called image reduction. So what this does is that it's kind of like a vertical aggregator. So we have a lot of scenes in this collection. And so we're pretty much getting the central statistics throughout the layers. And so this is particularly important or useful because, we have a long time series using Sentinel-2, and we kind of want to have an ensemble, visualization. And bear in mind, Sentinel-2 passes, once every 4 days, I think, with the twin satellite. And here specifically, we're just getting the median out of the entire image stack. And then for NDVI, palette-wise, creating a brown to green color ramp for visualization. And here for the added layer, we use the entire collection of the Sentinel-2 NDVI and then apply that palette to create our NDVI map. And so another thing to be aware here is that, as an example, I just used the entire collection. But when we do this over an image collection, it will automatically output only the first image. And so this one will probably just be whatever the first scene after or August 1st of 2022. So just be aware of that. And now I think the exciting part is, we want to know the field average NDVI, instead of looking at an entire scene. And here we're just gonna, generate the zonal statistics within this red polygon. And so to do this, we can use a charting function. We can specify our data of interest, which is the NDVI. And then we can, constrain it with the area of interest and then apply the image reduction strategy. And so as opposed to the reducer from before, we're not, creating a central value from the vertical stacks. So think about here is that you're creating it horizontally to get whatever the statistics is within this polygon for each of the scene. And so once everything is set, we also have different little options where you can configure your plot, including naming it, titles and whatnot. But once you're done with that, you can also export this file as a CSV to carry on with your analysis, whether in Python, MATLAB, or even Excel. And then, this plot, what it means is that, we have an aerial mean of NDVI within this polygon over the time. And if you look closely at this plot, you might see duplicated NDVI values. And so this kind of goes back to what I mentioned before, since Sentinel-2 is a mosaic tiles, and so we might have overlapping scenes. But once you have a smaller kind of area of interest, you usually be okay. All right, for recap wise, similar to what we've done with Landsat 9, instead of LST, we computed NDVI and charted the aerial mean of that NDVI. And I think, within that you can also apply, the same concept to LST or different analysis that allows you to extract, a time series, whether you want to look at phenology or the change of land surface temperature, throughout, the year of 2020 or something like that. And with that said, we'll pretty much, wrap up the applications for Landsat 9 and Sentinel-2. And so, for the remaining kind of the talk, I want to kind of cover also some of the local asset or as well as different MODIS applications, just very quickly. And so, as Xian mentioned that, Earth Engine has a lot of data sets, but not all of them. So oftentimes, if you have an eco-stress data set, you have to pre-process yourself, including georeferencing, and upload the GeoTIFF onto Earth Engine as a local asset. So to do that, you can, add the TIFF file from your local computer of analysis. And then, once you upload this onto Earth Engine, you can also reconfigure it, including names and different properties. I usually just change the name and keep the rest as default. And once that's done, you can go to a task and then seeing it being ingested or uploaded onto Earth Engine. And once that's done, it will show up as a blue progress bar. And so assuming this is the one we're using, and then you can use the same Landsat 9 code with the color ramp and everything else. And then you can, execute the code and then visualize your eco-stress tiles and then carry on with your analysis, whether it's horizontal statistics or something else. And then for MODIS, I thought folks might be interested because the high temporal resolution, since it passes 4 times per day with day-night overpasses from Terra Aqua Array. But I thought, MODIS is pretty straightforward and it has many analysis-ready products, including LST, that may be very useful for regional analysis. But one thing folks may encounter is kind of like the tilted pixel. And so if you'd like to change that, it's pretty simple. You just need to reproject the sinusoidal kind of a tile into WGS84. And then in the code chunk here is just defining the WGS84 projection and then reproject our MODIS scene into that WGS84. And with that, aside from all of these applications mentioned here, I'm pretty sure there are things I didn't cover. I also went pretty fast. And, as moving forward, please feel free to let us know if you have any questions. And I do want to point folks, towards the Earth Engine guides, where they have made a very detailed guide that may help you on your quest through Google Earth Engine. And with that, I think it's a good time to stop and then we can save maybe 5 to 10 minutes for questions and whatnot. But before that, I know I just dumped a bunch of information on you and it probably seems pretty overwhelming. And I think for the sake of having that good dopamine or serotonin, if you feel like it, please put down your current well-being scale in a chat. And then, I hope this tutorial has been helpful in a way that can push your research forward. And the most important advice I can offer is that you really learn by doing, and then don't be afraid to Google around if you're stuck on Earth Engine. Of course, let us know if you have any questions. And with that, thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. This is very useful, and useful instructions. I think we have about 9 minutes. I think it's a good time for Q&A to our instructors. So please leave your questions or comments on the chat, or you can speak to them right now. You can turn on your mic if you want and talk to them.
I have a quick question for Carlos. Like, we can insert the data on the Google Earth Engine, right? Do they have limitations, like how much data we can put by ourselves?
I don't think so, but I think so far I've only done like single scene import, like eco-stress scenes. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think they have a limit. Yeah.
So like you can inject as many as as much as we can.
Yeah. Because for OpenET, we ingest everything onto Earth Engine, and then we haven't run into any problems with kind of like a memory or storage.
Oh, that's great to know, because previously, like I think we have to talk to them, and they're going to inject on that. That's great. Thank you.
Wait, I can just chime in because I'm doing this right now. You don't have a limit. Just once you get into like really, really large assets, there's like a different way you need to like actually upload it. We can talk more about this later if you're interested, but like if I was doing like thousands of scenes from EcoStress, and it's like a different workflow, but there isn't like a limit to it, but it's not as easy as just uploading those assets like Carlos showed.
Thank you.
If I can add about that, I think there's you have access at a certain point, and then you need to talk with a team. We have been able to upload like a neon hyperspectral airborne. It was about 400 gigabytes of data, but that is something that you cannot do by yourself. So you need to contact the team.
And I also see the comments or question from the chat. So Claudia as the link for the practice that Carlos is showing now. I think, QR code is available once YouTube. This video is on the YouTube, but do you think you can?
I can put the link there right now. Yeah. Just give me 1 second.
Great. And also I see the question from Eric. And Eric, so Carlos, when ingesting data to GEE, is this a one-time ingest process, or is it stored in the cloud for later use?
This is a one-time ingestion, and then you can use it for later, and it will be kind of stored on your local kind of archive, and then you can import it, into your available script.
Great. And we have more time, so feel free to ask questions. And Hosen asks, what's the pros and cons of processing on GE or locally?
Well, I guess it depends. I mean, it depends on what you're processing. And then for Earth Engine, I like it because it's a lot of the data set I'm interested in are on there. And I can, for footprint analysis, I can also, upload those kind of a footprint and to link that specific moment with a satellite overpass. And to me, it's very fast. And then kind of once I have the script ready, all I need to do is adding more files and then click run and then kind of export that results. And then as opposed to a point and click system like ArcGIS or QGIS.
I would add a little bit. I think the Google Earth Engine just have all the data, like the data already being used for not pretty long time, but already have some applications. But the new data, like we talked before, you have to inject or talk to the group to inject all the data on Google Earth Engine. But also I think they have a limitations of memory to processing really large data set. So in that case, you might go supercomputer, I think. So when I was trying to processing some data across Indiana state, I have to split the state into 4 parts, but each part has like 30 something images to process. So it definitely has some limitations about memory, I think. If I'm wrong, just correct me.
All right. Is there any other questions? Or also instructors can add other comments if you have any.
So I have one question. Has anybody tried to do any downscaling or anything along those lines within Google Earth Engine? Or...
Yeah, I didn't hear your question very well. How about instructor? Were you able to hear?
Yeah, I think David was asking if one of us have ever done any downscaling was one of the tools. I don't think personally I've ever done any downscaling on Earth Engine.
Is that you have what exactly means? Like you have to have 500 meter to 3 meters, something like that?
Yeah, so say you have one product you're really interested in, but it's at a coarser scale, but you have other products that are available at a finer resolution that you could potentially use to scale your measurement down.
So you mean like 3 meter to 500 meters, something like that, right? So just from high resolution to coarse resolution.
No, the other way, from coarser
The
resolution
other way,
to a high.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, because I didn't hear clearly. I think the Google Earth Engine, they have a resolution. You can just, I think like, if I'm using the models, which is 500 sometimes, I can put 1000 meter in the resolution. So there's a variable, I guess. Then it just actually automatically downscaled to 1000 meter for you. So there's a really simple variable you can change there. Carlos, is it right?
So it sounds like it's resampling your pixels from coarse to fine. I don't know. To me, like it kind of needs a proxy for you to downscale, like from that coarse to fine. And then if I'm not familiar with the function you talked about, but if you kind of downscaling just from 1000 to 500, just using whatever they have linkage, and then I would like to know the uncertainty associated within that pixel resampling.
I think Manuela has also replied in the chat.
Yes, Manuela, told us that downscaling is probably something that you will need to do offline yourself. Okay, so now it's 10, so I think it's time to wrap up. So thank you so much, Xian, Huiqi, and Carlos for the awesome lectures, and please give thumbs up to them. And thank you everyone for joining us today. And today's session is recorded and will be uploaded to the Ameriflux YouTube channel in the coming days. And there'll be another tutorial in the late February or early March, and we'll share more details about that soon. So until then, take care and see you soon. All right, have a nice day. Bye.
Thanks all. Bye.